Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Tell me why I'm starting to struggle with allergies. It's February, man.
It's a little bit early.
It's more than a little bit early. There's ice on the ground today. What is this? Is there a cat somewhere in this building? I'm allergic to cats. Am I reacting to a cat? Did somebody bring in their cat today? Is it bring your pet to work day here at the Ref?
I'm with you. My allergies have started to show signs of kicking in.
Yeah, like what in the world? Also, there are weeds growing in my lawn. Why and how are weeds growing in my lawn in February when it's been below freezing? I don't know how many days out of the month so far?
A lot of them.
Ridiculous. I had to go buy a little weed and feed action at Lowe's the other day.
Also,
got to take care of that at some point.
Didn't that groundhog say that we have 6 more weeks of winter too?
He might have been right.
So allergies should not be acting up and weeds should not be growing.
But that means it's going to be a cold month of February.
Yeah.
This is Locked In, folks. Parker Thune alongside former first-round draft pick Grayson Singleton. The show brought to you by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno, family-owned and operated. The best service technicians, friendly service advisors, half-price oil changes on Saturdays, a low-pressure environment, and a highly knowledgeable sales staff. You can find it all out in El Reno at Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. Now, the natural place to start the show today is that DeMarco Murray is not going anywhere. News. It was reported early yesterday evening that Murray was in talks to become the next running backs coach at Penn State. Apparently, James Franklin didn't quite get his fill of dunking on Oklahoma with the whole Jim Knowles saga and decided to go back for more. Try and help himself to seconds. Now, within a couple of hours, that reporting was refuted first by my colleague Brandon Drum at OUinsider.com. It's since been corroborated by multiple national reports as well, that although DeMarco Murray did explore the possibility of becoming the next running backs coach at Penn State, and although he did have conversations with the Nittany Lions brass about the vacancy, he is not leaving and will serve as Oklahoma's running backs coach in 2025. It is the second consecutive offseason that Murray has had flirtations with one of the I almost said SECs, with one of the Big Ten's football powerhouses, as Ohio State obviously came quite close to hiring him away last spring before Oklahoma gave him a pretty hefty raise in excess of $200,000 over his previous salary. And he stuck around. Stuck around then. He's sticking around now. Where I want to start the show today is, what do we think of DeMarco Murray as a recruiter? And the poll question on our YouTube channel is, who is DeMarco Murray's best recruiting addition during his time at OU? There are really only 4 options here, Grayson. 4 options. Because if you go back and if we run through the list of guys DeMarco Murray has recruited class by class to Oklahoma, it was a goose egg in 2021. The Sooners made a hard push for 5-star running back Kamar Wheaton out of Lakeview Centennial High School down in Garland, Texas. He wound up going to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
That one last, I think it was December 23rd, very end of the signing period, that Kamar Wheaton decided in 2020, December of 2020, that he was going to choose Alabama over Oklahoma. Kamar Wheaton didn't amount to much. I think he's still at SMU. He might have a year of eligibility left. Hasn't done a whole lot at the collegiate level. 2022. It was a pretty solid class for DeMarco. 2 of the top 10 running backs of the nation. Gavin Sawchuk out of Littleton, Colorado, and Javante Barnes out of Las Vegas, Nevada. we've certainly seen flashes from both of those guys during their time here. Barnes contributed as a true freshman. It took Sawchuk a year. He redshirted, had to get weight on his frame, had to battle through some injuries. But you saw what he was capable of down the stretch in 2023, closing out the year with 5 straight 100-yard games. In the 2023 class, the Sooners landed 2 running backs. Once again, neither of them are still here, though. Caleb Hicks and Dalen Smothers have both since transferred. And so that brings us to 2024, where in technicality, he landed 3 running back commits. Taylor Tatum, the number 1 back in the country. Xavier Robinson, who had a transcendent high school career, one of the greatest in the history of the state of Oklahoma at Carl Albert High. And then another kid from within state lines in Andy Bass, the former Heritage Hall quarterback who was recruited to play running back at Oklahoma. Andy Bass has yet to see the field in an OU uniform, had to recover from a torn ACL that he suffered towards the end of his senior year of high school, and aggravated that same injury during bowl prep. So we have not gotten to see Andy Bass on the field yet. We're not really sure what that looks like. But of the 4 guys that are still around that DeMarco Murray has recruited on scholarships at the University of Oklahoma, who do you think is his best recruiting addition? Is it Taylor Tatum? Is it Xavier Robinson? Is it Gavin Sawchuk? Is it Javonte Barnes? Early indications on the YouTube poll is that people favored Xavier Robinson, which is pretty remarkable. 45% of the votes right now are for Xavier Robinson, which is crazy because we've seen what?
3 games?
3 or 4 games of Xavier Robinson? I mean, don't get me wrong. Based on what he did against Alabama, which was easily the most memorable game of the 2024 season for OU, I get why he's garnering so many votes. But man, that speaks to what I really wanted to try and highlight with this question, which is that it's really not clear at all who's going to be the head honcho in Oklahoma's backfield in 2025. Like, who is the leader of that committee? You have 4 guys that all are probably going to have an equal say in stating their case on the practice field and in fall camp.
Okay, yes. Your early return says Javonte Barnes. I think this is also because these guys have, especially Sawchuk and Barnes, have this in common. They are the elder statesmen, and they all are often hurt. That is the reality of their situation. So they may be the head honcho come week 1, and it may be somebody totally different come week 6. Like that's just the reality of what they've put forth. Taylor Tatum is very talented. Taylor Tatum can't hold on to the football. Now he's got a whole off season to work on that and to improve that, and I think he will. It'll be interesting to see how much work he can get in with his baseball season too. Keep that in mind. And Xavier Robinson's looked like the most excited young guy. So I think DeMarco has his work cut out for him. I think last year he was unable to get into a flow of who he liked as his lead running back. And a lot of that to me I think has to do with the fact that the offensive line was atrocious.
Yes, it was.
That plays a role into it when it comes to determining what kind of a job that DeMarco has done as a coach. So I think this year, with the way the offensive line is projected to come in healthy, you got a new right tackle, Derek Simmons, you've got to have more stability at that running back room. And I think right now the early leader is Barnes.
Eric in the OC says, we just need Tatum to hold on to the dang ball. And if Taylor Tatum can manage that, man, he's going to be really, really, really special. Because you're exactly right, and we all saw it. The ball security was atrocious, right?
It's not terrible.
It's not as if they were feeding Taylor Tatum 20 carries a game, and by carry 16 or 17, oh, there he goes, coughing it up. No, he was getting like 5 touches a game, and by the 3rd or 4th touch, the ball would be on the ground.
Here's the analogy that you can use, Parker. You and I are on airwaves and behind microphones thousands of hours a year.
Yes.
If one of us slips up and says a 4-letter word in those thousands of hours, you can kind of look past it. But if we bring on a guest once a week and every time we can't stop saying words, we would think he'd have a cursing problem. That's Taylor Tatum. His opportunity to messing it up ratio is not good.
I remember the very first time we had Mark Clayton on these airwaves. And I've had him on regularly on pregame shows over the years, but the very first time I had him on, I want to say it was 2021, maybe 2022. Very first time I had him on, man, I don't think he realized he was on the radio as opposed to on a podcast.
Oh, no.
He was out on the golf course, probably had a little booze, and he dropped like 4 or 5 non-FCC sanctioned words in the course of a single hit. That did not go over very well with the bosses. But after that, ever since, I've had him on many times. No issues, but that was a particularly memorable day.
But is that not the frustrating part about Taylor Tatum?
Absolutely.
Is that he's not getting 30 carries a night. It's not as if he's getting 30 carries a night and he fumbles 4 times in a season. It's that he's getting 6 carries a night and still fumbling 4 times in a season.
Mm-hmm. Reformed Sooner says there's a difference between which running back is better and which is the better recruiting win. Tatum was the bigger win. Yeah, good point. Semantics there, Reformed Sooner. But you're 100% correct, which is that if you go back to that 2024 cycle, there was a time, and we didn't realize, because it wasn't public knowledge at that point, that DeMarco was dealing with sanctions and had his recruiting hours, recruiting days limited. I don't know if y'all remember that, but at the time, I remember the spring getting word from folks down in Texas, hey, if Oklahoma would seriously push for Taylor Tatum, they'd get Taylor Tatum. I don't know why they're not pushing for him. Come to find out, DeMarco was dealing with sanctions, and that's why they couldn't really ramp up their pursuit of Taylor Tatum yet.
But also, isn't Taylor Tatum from right down the street?
Longview?
Oh, he was a Longview kid, though. That's right.
Yeah. So once
I had it mixed up with somebody else.
Once May of 23 rolled around and OU could really put the full court press on Taylor Tatum and did, it was over pretty quickly. Funny part is Taylor Tatum actually silented to USC. I don't know how well known that is. He silented to USC on his official visit. Then the next week he went to Oklahoma, and that was it. There was no more USC silent. Because basically, as I understand it, Lincoln Riley sold him a bunch of bunk about how he had managed Kyler Murray's 2-sport schedule. And then he got to OU the next week, and Skip Johnson was like, actually, none of that is true.
Oh, beautiful.
Lesson learned in that for old Coach Riley.
If you were to sum up the job DeMarco Murray's done, since that was the genesis of this conversation,
yeah,
what grade would you give him?
Okay, so there was another text, and CJ Sooner, I understand this perspective as well. DeMarco Murray, good recruiter, unproven developer. I actually think he's proven plenty as a developer. Maybe not everything you would like him to prove, but there's a track record there. For instance, if we go back to the 2019 season, the year before DeMarco Murray showed up, the man coaching running backs at the University of Oklahoma was Jay Boulware. The pecking order in that backfield was Kennedy Brooks in number 1, Trey Sermon number 2, Ramondre Stevenson number 3. Ramondre Stevenson was the third stringer that year. DeMarco Murray's very first year on campus in 2020, Kennedy Brooks opted out of the season due to COVID-19 concerns. Trey Sermon transferred to Ohio State. So Ramondre Stevenson was thrust into a de facto RB1 role almost by default. But nonetheless, he has a strong enough season in limited action, mind you, because he missed the first 4 or 5 games of the season due to that marijuana suspension.
Yeah.
He has a good enough year that he winds up getting drafted in the 4th round of the NFL draft.
6.6 yards per carry.
6.6 yards per carry that year, was a keystone contributor for that offense as both a rusher and a receiver. And Kennedy Brooks went undrafted. I can't remember offhand where Trey Sermon got picked. Point is, if you go back to that 2019 backfield, and you were mindful of the fact that Ramondre Stevenson in Jay Boulware's room was sitting behind Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon both, and here we are in the year 2025, and Stevenson was drafted higher and has done far more at the professional level than either of those two guys have done, what do you chalk that up to, if not development on the part of DeMarco Murray?
I'll extend that point, too. If you go to the 2021 season, then the 2022 season, DeMarco's lead back had back-to-back 1,200-yard rushing seasons.
Correct.
Kennedy Brooks comes back and has 1,200. Eric Gray in 2022 has 1,300.
And Kennedy Brooks was just a great college running back.
Yes.
I'm not sure the development component, the coaching component mattered a whole heck of a lot for Kennedy Brooks because he was just a guy that got it, man. Everything he did was very natural. Now, he was never explosive enough that he was going to have a long-term NFL career, but he was a great college running back. So I don't give DeMarco full credit. I think if I'm being fair, I'm not giving him all the credit for what Kennedy Brooks did in 2021, especially because Brooks had 1,000-yard seasons in 18 and 19. But 2022? What happened with Eric Gray?
Mm-hmm.
Eric Gray went from, again, a guy that was kind of thrust into an RB1 role by default because Kennedy Brooks had just graduated. He went from that, a guy that you didn't really know what you could expect from him going into the year. He goes for 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns?
Mm-hmm.
A fantastic breakout season. There was enough to convince him he could cash in his chips, leave the college game a year early, and be an NFL draft pick, which he was. The New York Giants.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to Eric Gray's Tennessee days, yeah, he'd shown flashes, certainly, but he had not produced to nearly the level that he did for Oklahoma in 2022, and that was not a good Oklahoma team, mind you.
And you didn't think he would be an every down back.
Exactly.
And he turned into one.
Exactly. And, man, that was the thing. It was like, okay, what is Eric Gray for Oklahoma in 2022? Probably the guy that gets the early shot to have the lion's share of the carries, probably the guy that you would consider the leader of the committee, but I remember at fall camp, he was getting a hard charge. He had Javonte Barnes nipping at his heels for RB1 duties. And Javonte Barnes still had a pretty nice season, but, man, the breakout year that Eric Gray had, you can make an argument, and I would, that he was pound for pound Oklahoma's best offensive player. CJ Sooner in Florida says, you better read this one, Parker. None of the guys DeMarco recruited from high school have developed into proven rushers. It's been 3 years since he had a 1,000-yard rusher. Good point, CJ Sooner, and here's where I kind of close the loop on my opinion. I think DeMarco has multiple guys in his room right now that could be 1,000-yard rushers at the college level, if given the carries and the offensive line to do so. But let's be completely intellectually honest here. The reason none of those guys have developed into 1,000-yard rusher types is because none of them have been healthy for a full season.
And that's the big point here, whether it's Javonte or Gavin. Taylor Tatum was just a rookie, and Xavier Robinson needed time to be ready to produce like he did. Nobody's really been available physically or mentally long enough to do that.
In 2023, you had Tawi Walker, Gavin Sawchuk, and Javonte Barnes all miss substantial time.
Yes.
In 2024, Javonte Barnes missed time. Gavin Sawchuk was healthy technically also. He did miss a couple of games, but he was healthy for most of the season. Even so, he just wasn't himself. Kind of like Javonte Barnes in 2023, where even when he was active, you could tell it just...
something wasn't right.
Exactly. Taylor Tatum missed games. If you recall, he suffered a concussion against Tennessee. So give DeMarco a healthy backfield. And I think give him a hierarchy where it's clear who the lead back is, and you're going to get top-tier production out of that backfield, I do believe. What I'm really interested to see, and where the jury is still out for me on DeMarco, is what happens when he has 3, 4, even 5 guys in his room that all have a case for snaps. How does he manage that? Because that's maybe the one thing that I would be most critical of him over the last couple of years is he hasn't really given any of his backs, when healthy, the opportunity to get in a rhythm with 15, 20, 25 carries a game.
It's like in basketball, how you can't sub people out every 2 or 3 minutes because you can't get into the flow and into the rhythm of the game. I think DeMarco's biggest problem, especially last year, and maybe he was a little bit over his skis because the offensive line was so dysfunctional. So I think if you have a functional offensive line, that alleviates one of those factors that, let's be honest, was out of his control.
What do you think of DeMarco Murray? Let us know on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We will dig into more OU football and recruiting, and certainly dig into some of your thoughts on the other side. You're listening to Locked In here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Keep it right here. We'll be back.
Bleed Crimson? Love great Sooner talk? Join the Ref Army by downloading our free app. Toby and TJ, Plank and Josh, Steelman and Thune, and Teddy and Tyler. We have the Sooner experts. The Ref is home to Sooner fans worldwide.
Connect directly, bid confidently. At Purple Wave Auction, transparency is key. With no reserves and no hidden surprises, you're connected directly to sellers so you can inspect and bid on quality equipment with confidence. Whether you're looking for ag, construction, or fleet equipment, we're here to ensure a clear, hassle-free experience. Register today at purplewave.com and start bidding with peace of mind. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
As Oklahoma grows, we want to grow with it, and serving part-time in the Oklahoma Army National Guard is perfect for that. Our service provides money for school, so we can be ready for a new career or improve our current one. We learn valuable teamwork skills and get hands-on with some of the latest tech. And we also help the communities we live in recover whenever they are in need. Our service is helping to keep Oklahoma and ourselves moving forward. Learn more at nationalguard.com/OK.
Sponsored by the Oklahoma Army National Guard. Aired by the Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Fall in love with OKC's favorite casino.
Because at Riverwind, we've got it all.
Grab a bite at one of our many restaurants.
Or sip and spin at our high stakes area.
And the Showplace Theater at Riverwind is the hottest spot for live music.
Shoot your shot at our $80,000 Cupid's Quest giveaway.
For the best gaming and unforgettable entertainment,
it's gotta be Riverwind.
At Oklahoma Electric Cooperative, we value service, not profits. That's why we want to help you save on energy costs this winter. Here are a few tips. First, open curtains on your home's south-facing windows during the day and use the sun's heat for free. Second, seal leaky doors and windows using low-cost caulking or weather stripping. And third, be sure to keep the fireplace damper closed unless a fire is burning. Visit okcoop.org for more ways to save this winter.
Imagine one step, and suddenly a fall turns into a fracture. For many, osteoporosis is a hidden threat, weakening bones silently until it's too late. At the Ortho Central Bone Health Clinic, we believe in personalized care to keep bones strong and resilient. Led by advanced practitioner Amanda Boyd, our team specializes in detection and personalized treatment plans, from bone density testing to strengthening bones after a fracture. Take charge of your bone health today. Call Ortho Central's Bone Health Clinic and let's build better bones together.
Call the 12th Avenue Chick-fil-A in Norman at 405-310-3189. Let them prepare your party. You'll be the favorite guest when you bring a Chick-fil-A nugget tray, sandwiches, or a mac and cheese tray. It'll be their pleasure to serve you, whether dining in, carrying out, catering, or delivering delightfulness to your front door. Box meals to nugget trays to gallons of lemonade and tea. They have plenty to offer for your next class party, team celebration, or family gathering. You'll be the big-time guest when you bring Chick-fil-A. Call 405-310-3189. And remember, eat more chicken.
Dreaming of your own backyard oasis? Be the envy of your neighborhood and let Signature Custom Pools help you create the perfect poolside paradise. Their professional design expertise can transport you into your own Mystic Falls, suburban sanctuary, or Mediterranean retreat. Settle into an endless vacation, entertain your family, friends, and get the signature touch with Signature Custom Pools. Call them for a free consultation at 405-898-9098 or visit them online at signaturecustompools.com today.
Get hurt in the game? We tough it out. Feel exhausted? We push on. Feeling down? We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. But there are times when bootstraps aren't enough. When stress gets to us and we need to talk to someone about what we're really going through. So we're going to reach out, because sometimes mental health is not a one-person job. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Politics really does infiltrate every aspect of our lives, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would think so.
This is what I generally have loved about sports in the past, is that it's a bubble. It provides insulation from all of the BS that goes on in the outside world. But that only can persist for so long. It's all colliding today. I just saw a tweet from ESPN that I guess The U.S. Department of Education today said in a statement that Title IX does not apply to name, image, and likeness deals, rescinding the Biden administration's guidance that schools must equitably distribute direct payments to male and female athletes. So there we go. Politics and sports colliding. Scroll to the top of my Twitter feed to see a tweet from Noah Allen, former OU quarterback, that said, "I'd say the dream of the University North Park Entertainment District died last night in Norman. Voting matters. Elections have consequences." Can't keep politics out of sports, Grayson.
Well, I mean,
not in the year 2025.
I mean, sports is part of the society. So, yeah. I mean, it's going to be sports and politics. Here's the dumb thing that I think people don't realize. Sports and politics have always intersected. I mean, this isn't a new thing. This didn't pop up in 2015. The social media age has just exacerbated it.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, the Olympics that were in Germany, in, 36? Berlin?
36 Berlin. Good poll.
Politics and sports have always intersected.
I don't claim to be an expert on what the outcome of the Norman mayoral election means for the University North Park Entertainment District. No doubt that's going to become a topic of prominent conversation in the days ahead. Not really sure what I think yet on the Department of Education's ruling about Title IX not applying to name, image, and likeness deals, other than that I think it further clears the path for non-revenue generating sports to be eliminated in favor of feeding the football machine.
Probably. I think that's the big takeaway.
And in some cases, the basketball machine for some of these big-time P4 schools. But we'll see.
I do wish name, image, and likeness had remained what it was supposed to be. Endorsement brand deals outside. Yeah, I still think you should be paid as employees. And I think the big thing why we're in this situation is because we haven't figured out who's supposed to pay these players as employees. And we could have left name, image, and likeness to just be endorsements. But cat's out the bag now.
Back to your text on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Chapstick says, the arena is not dead, just this plan. Yeah, I understand, Chapstick. I understand. But that plan's been in motion a long, long time. Brian from Maryland says, Parker, you have an in with the politics and sports thing. Lobby your uncle for Title IX. I'm staying out of politics in as much as it depends on me to do so.
What would it take for you to continue the Thune legacy of public office?
No. The answer is no. I'll let my younger brother do that. He's getting a degree in is his degree in political science or his degree just in politics? I think his degree might just be in politics.
You can get a degree in politics?
At the school he's going to, yes.
Which is?
Hillsdale College up in Michigan.
Huh.
Yeah. We took very different paths, he and I. So if he wants to continue the Thune political legacy, I'm all for it. It's just not going to be me. On the topic of DeMarco Murray, KW918 says, love DeMarco, glad he stayed at OU, but some of his decisions are questionable. Like burning X's red shirt for 2 meaningless snaps against Texas and Ole Miss. That's inexcusable. That cost the kid money. If he wanted a 5th year at college, he can't now. Guess I'm a bad fan for questioning that. I don't know. No, you're absolutely not a bad fan for questioning that, K-Dub. And I did the same thing when it happened and have done so repeatedly ever since, because that did cost Xavier Robinson a year of eligibility, playing 2 completely meaningless snaps in the final drive of the game against Texas and Ole Miss.
In case I missed it, did he ever defend why he did that?
No. I just, here's what I think happened. I don't think anybody anticipated, certainly least of all the coaching staff, that Xavier Robinson was going to be the guy that was rushing for 100-plus and 2 touchdowns against Alabama by November. They all thought, okay, this kid's redshirting. We'll get him in for a couple snaps here, a couple snaps there, just to say that we played him. And so that way, if it comes time to have the conversation surrounding NIL, we can at least say, hey, we value you. We wanted to get you on the field. We want to get you up to speed. We want you to be a bigger part of the backfield in 2025. It just so happened, okay, main game rolls around. You have the Xavier Robinson drive toward the end of that game where he just takes over and then kind of forces DeMarco's hand going into the Alabama game when Javonte Barnes is unavailable. And I guess the Missouri game was sandwiched there in between, where I can't recall if he drew. No, he did start that game. He did draw a start in that game because he was effective. And at that point, Oklahoma just needed somebody that could be effective in the backfield with Barnes on the shelf. So I think the plan was to redshirt Robinson until they realized, okay, we really can't do this. And then, you're kind of in too deep after the Missouri game. Or, I'm sorry. No, it would have been after the Missouri game. The Missouri game was the fourth game he played. At that point, had to make a decision as to whether you were going to burn his red shirt by playing him against Alabama. And he had that drive down the stretch in the Mizzou game as well, kind of like Maine, where he just has, Oklahoma has nothing going for them offensively up in Columbia. And then all of a sudden, late in the game, they give it to Xavier Robinson. And then they give it to Xavier Robinson again. And then again. And again, I think he touched the ball on 6 or 7 consecutive snaps that drive. And, of course, everybody is instantly hitting the Twitter machine going, give me more of Xavier Robinson. And so that's where the decision ensues as to whether you're going to burn the red shirt or not. Now, I will say, seeing as how they decided to burn his red shirt, they sure got their money's worth with that Alabama performance.
And that begs the question, Parker. By the way, those of you on YouTube, we're working on Parker's camera, by the way, so just hang tight. Parker, that begs the question, do you win the Alabama game without Xavier Robinson? I know the defense played its ass off, but offensively, do you have the sort of success that you had without Xavier Robinson, given the other circumstances around it?
Yeah, you certainly don't have the same success that you had. I guess the follow-up question would be, does it matter on a night when Alabama just could not do anything offensively?
True.
A 405 listener says, Parker, don't you attend press conferences and practices? Why don't you or other insiders ask these questions instead of guessing?
Damn.
Okay, everybody did ask this question. If you go back to the week of the Alabama game, even before Xavier Robinson popped off, we got to talk to Xavier Robinson. He got to discuss the conversations that he had with the coaching staff about whether or not he was going to redshirt, whether he was going to burn it, whether he was okay with burning it. All of these conversations are had, people. All of these conversations are had with the athletes and with the coaches. I'm not guessing. I'm not just throwing noodles against the wall. Now, as I said, you go back to the Texas game and the Ole Miss game, that's why. That's the only reason why. That's the only logical reason why. You're putting Xavier Robinson in the game because you're just trying to get him snaps and you're not counting on having to do anything other than redshirt him in 2024. Well, didn't turn out that way. Breaks out down the stretch. It is what it is. He's down a year of eligibility. At least he had a performance for the ages against Alabama. And one for which, here's the thing, Grayson. If Xavier Robinson never does another thing in an Oklahoma uniform, he will be remembered for that Alabama game.
Oh, yeah.
And that performance.
Easy. And also, let's go here. If he continues to develop and turn into the player that we forecast him to be, that 5th year is going to be irrelevant because he's off to the league in 3 years, maybe 4. So I think it's okay to have the conversation now, but I think in 2-3 years, I don't even think the conversation is going to even be meaningful.
Denver from Indiana says, I love DeMarco, but I do question his strategy. Saw Chuck was on fire in the bowl game, then barely a peep. I know, common tweet. I always feel like running backs need carries to get it rolling. In the last few years, that hasn't happened. Again, Denver, you're spot on, and that is the one thing about which I think I'm probably most critical of DeMarco Murray and about which he warrants the most criticism, is that when he has healthy guys in the stable, it doesn't seem like, especially in 23 and 24, he's given any of those guys individually enough time and enough carries and enough consistent snaps to really get in a rhythm. And I think a guy like Gavin Sawchuk needs that.
Do you think, Parker, that the NIL thing and the transfer portal thing plays a huge role into this? Because I think we talk about the players not getting into a flow. I don't think DeMarco's allowing himself to get into a flow of a rotation because he's worried about who's going to transfer. And at some point, you have to just say, be that what it may, and you've got to really focus on one or two guys, because the thing you don't want to do is tick off everybody and have everybody feel like they're not going to develop and they're not going to be able to perform and put on good tape trying to get to the next level. Yeah. You may have to sacrifice two to save the entire room.
As far as DeMarco as a recruiter, there's been a lot of conversation on the text line as far as DeMarco the developer. DeMarco the recruiter, I don't think there's quite as much dissension there. It would seem, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks, I know you will on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Do any of you have issues with the way DeMarco Murray has recruited? Because I think he's been pretty strong. I think he learned a valuable lesson in 2021 with the Kamar Wheaton fiasco, which is that you do not put all your eggs in one basket. He was a second-year coach at that point, brand new to the profession, and had to learn the hard way that when you feel like you got a kid in the bag, you can't take it for granted until pen is on paper. Now, in 2022, he landed two really good ones. Same thing in 2023. Wasn't his fault that Dalen Smothers didn't stick around. That was a weird circumstance.
What happened with that?
He just up and left. And from what I understand, it was less about his desires and more about his dad's desires to get up and out of there. But they were planning on him being a big part of the backfield in 2024. They did not want him to leave. And, Caleb Hicks was what Caleb Hicks was. Just never inspired enough confidence for them to give him carries consistently.
And he was going to be lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, he was. That's just the harsh reality of the situation. Be interested to see how he does up at Oklahoma State. But in 2024, I think you got two great ones, two guys that have the potential to be great ones at the college level, in Taylor Tatum and Xavier Robinson. For Tatum, it's just a matter of ball security, and I think Andy Bass, there's going to be value there. There will be. I think Andy Bass is going to be a dang good college football player. 2025, you got a home run hitter in Torrey Blaylock, and in 26, it's a pivotal class for DeMarco because it's a pivotal class for everybody on staff. It's a prove-it year for everyone, both on the recruiting trail and certainly on the field. I like how things are trending for DeMarco and Oklahoma with multiple running backs in the cycle. I think they're landing Caden Jones. As of right now, I would project that second back to be Rylan Morris. They're in the mix for Jonathan Hatton. They will continue to be in the mix for Jonathan Hatton, who is obviously committed to Oklahoma for a long, long time. But any way you slice it, there doesn't seem to be a world in which Oklahoma doesn't come up with another two-fold backfield that's very, very strong.
And because of that, DeMarco definitely deserves this season.
Yes. The reaction on Twitter was interesting. And I guess it should have been something I expected, and I did to a certain extent, but you got people, when the announcement comes out he's staying, you got people down there in the comments thanking him for his loyalty and paying respect to the university figurehead that he has been for close to 2 decades now, an outstanding representative of the University of Oklahoma. And then you got people who are like, get him on out of here. Acting like it's bad news that he's staying at Oklahoma instead of going to Penn State. Opinions are divided on just about everybody right now. That's what happens when you go 6-7. Nobody is going to have a 100% approval rate. Is there anybody that does? Anybody that does have a 100% approval rate right now?
You and I don't even have a 100% approval rate.
Oh, far from it. Far from it. Everybody becomes a target when the football team is losing. Just the nature of the beast. Okay, folks, keep firing away on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439. A couple more names to throw at you from the recruiting trail in the 2026 cycle. Oklahoma continues to lock in official visits with some of their top targets, and there's a new one as of today. Very, very coveted player nationally that has locked in an official visit with Oklahoma. We will get to that and more on the other side. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Dusty Dvorak here. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
March is almost here, and the home of Sooner fans is ready to make the best 68 team giveaway better than ever again this year. Join us Monday, March 17th for the Ref's 24th annual 68 team giveaway, live at Buffalo Wild Wings off of 19th Street and more from noon to 7. The Ref's 68 team giveaway is presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind Casino. Good times, great rewards. The Ref, the home of Sooner fans, and your home for the best giveaways this March.
I'm Gina Mitchell of Mitchell's Jewelry. Valentine's Day is all about love, and we have gifts worthy of the day. Modern heart pendants and fabulous gold necklaces are sure to make her heart skip a beat. She might even have a wish list waiting for you. If you're looking to outdo Cupid, our Antwerp diamond supplier has brought in the best Antwerp has to offer. The selection and the prices are oh so sweet. Mitchell's Jewelry in the heart of Norman at 2201 West Main Street.
Bring your besties or your sweeties to the Sooner Bowling Center in Norman for their Valentine's Day special. Friday, February 14th, from 5 p.m. to midnight, you get 90 minutes of bowling for 6 bowlers for only $60. There will be holiday food and drink specials all night on Valentine's Day. And don't forget, you can also now book your escape rooms for Escape Sooner for Valentine's Day. Visit SoonerBowl.com for more information.
Hey, I just spoke to Megan Vance of Vance Auto Group in Guthrie. Megan asked me to let our listeners, that's you, know that every new Ram truck will be super discounted during the Ram Truck Month going on now. If you're thinking it's time to shop for a new truck, think new Ram truck and save. Go to Vance Auto Group and see Vance's huge selection of new Rams. You'll see the discounted price, retail price, and all discounts and rebates. You'll also see something called the Vance Lifetime Engine, Transmission, and other powertrain components guaranteed. Receiving this guarantee means your new Ram will be guaranteed for as long as you own it, no matter how many miles are on your truck. And it's absolutely free. That's right, free. Plan on driving your new truck for miles and miles? Then this is the guarantee that was made for you. It's Ram Truck Month at Vance Auto Group, going on now. Learn more at vanceautogroup.com. Shop us online or visit our Guthrie dealership on I-35, exit 153. See dealer for more details on powertrain guarantee with approved credit.
Hi everybody, Toby Rowland here. And are you and your family looking for a place to golf in 2025? The Trails Golf Club in Norman is perfect for you. The Trails give you the opportunity for you and your family to spend quality time together by playing golf, enjoying the pool in the summertime, along with many family fun-filled activities around holidays. Plus, one of the best restaurants in town. Now is the perfect time to join the Trails. Contact Zane Alexander today at 405-360-3790 or visit trailsgolf.com.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Speaking of technology, did you know that RK Black is an authorized dealer for Kyocera copiers? And the Kyocera copiers aren't just copiers. They're smart devices that can scan, print, fax, and email your documents with ease and security. Even better, they're backed by RK Black's award-winning service team that is built on nearly 70 years of taking great care of our clients. Whether you need a desktop printer or a multifunction copier, RK Black has the right product for you. Let's get the conversation started. Give us a call at 943-9800 or visit us at rkblack.com.
Can I interest you in a big ugly from the state of South Carolina, Grayson Singleton?
Interests me how?
Well, said big ugly from the state of South Carolina is taking an official visit to the University of Oklahoma.
Oh, so as a football player?
Yes, as a football player. Sorry,
yeah, sure.
In case that was unclear.
So I can be interested in a big ugly from the South.
Desmond Green of St. Stephen, South Carolina, 6'4", 330-pound interior offensive lineman at Timberland High School, has scheduled an Oklahoma official visit for June 6th through the 8th. Now, He is currently regarded as the number 140 overall player in the nation in the 2026 cycle.
That sounds pretty good.
The number 2 player in the state of South Carolina and the number 6 interior offensive lineman in the country. So, dude can play. And if you look at the offer sheet, it bears that out. Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Oregon, Tennessee. He's got the who's who.
The team in the home state hasn't offered him?
Oh, I'm sorry, South Carolina. Yes, South Carolina has. I don't know why I didn't mention them.
Okay.
I was scrolling through the offer list and looking at the schools that are nationally relevant. South Carolina, at least in my head, I guess just isn't there yet.
What did they finish in the AP poll? Like top 15 last year?
Yeah, look. I love Shane Beamer, man. If anybody can get it going at South Carolina, it's going to be him. And they have a dynamo of a defensive ends coach in Sterling Lucas as well that has won some big-time recruiting battles for them. And you've seen that pay off on the gridiron with some of their areas of strength, certainly being on the defensive front with guys like Dylan Stewart, Kyle Kennard, et cetera, and Nick Harbor, who was recruited to play defensive end at South Carolina. And they realized, no, you know what, we'd rather probably have this freakazoid playing offense. And so that's what they did. Desmond Green is taking 5 official visits. He will be OVing Virginia Tech and Georgia prior to Oklahoma. After Oklahoma, he's going to be OVing Florida and South Carolina. South Carolina going to get the last crack at the kid from the home state. And so you'd have to think, Georgia in the mix. Georgia historically, they get who they want on the offensive line. That's not universally the case, but generally that is very much true, is that Georgia can kind of pick them. So you'd have to think Georgia and South Carolina are probably in the best spot there, but Oklahoma's going to get their shot. And, man, that board on the interior offensive line just keeps getting more and more crowded, man. Oklahoma's got one, too. They've got a commit in Will Conroy, so it's not as if they're operating with an empty chalkboard here. No, they have one locked in. They probably have room for 2 more, maybe 3 if it's the right 3. This is a really, really talented class of guards and centers, as we've discussed, and Oklahoma apparently isn't even content with just staying within their own region. I'm going to go to St. Stephen, South Carolina, to try to reel in one of the best from SEC territory. So Desmond Green, that is very much a new name to watch. Also, Oklahoma is also lining up an official visit with one of my favorite individuals in the entire 2026 class, if only for the sake of his name, Puleleite Primus.
You just like
from
saying
Midland,
that.
Texas. I do.
You just like saying that name.
And, here's the thing.
Stop flexing on all of us,
Most guys like that, they have a shortened version of their name that they go by.
Yeah.
No, he goes by Puleleite. At least as far as I know. Maybe his friends call him something different.
There's no way that in his inner circle he goes by that.
That's primarily an OU Texas Tech battle, which you'd expect for a West Texas kid. Generally, historically speaking, West Texas kids that OU has been involved with, that has gotten involved with, they've had a pretty strong case with those dudes. Ivan Carione, a recent example of somebody that OU went to West Texas and pulled away from Texas Tech because Carione was committed to the Red Raiders at one time. That, to me, is a battle that in years past you'd feel good about your chances about, or feel good about your chances with if you're an OU fan because, okay, in what world does OU not out-recruit Texas Tech? But here we are in 2025, and Texas A&M does have stupid money, but so too does Texas Tech. They got double Eagle energy and Cody Campbell behind them. So that's the great equalizer. And I don't know if you saw the story on ESPN the other day, written by Max Olson, about what Texas Tech did to build the number 1 portal class in America this past offseason.
I did see this.
Yeah, they spent north of $10 million, and apparently, the folks in that office are just absolutely obsessive about making sure that they have all of their bases covered as soon as the portal window hits, and that anybody that they like that gets in the portal, they're going to go after, and they're going to make a very rich offer to. A great example, and one that many OU fans will recall, is wide receiver Reggie Virgil from Miami of Ohio. Remember, the thought was, okay, he's taking a Texas Tech official visit. He had one other one set up, I think, as well. But he's going to take his Texas Tech official visit. Then he's going to come to OU. OU feels pretty good about their chances to land him. And they did at that time. They had a hefty amount of money set aside for Reggie Virgil. Probably more than a wide receiver of his caliber, not to disrespect him, but probably more than a wide receiver of his caliber and a receiver that had produced to the level that he had produced to that point was worth. But he goes to Texas Tech 2 days before he's scheduled to show up at Oklahoma, never leaves. Never leaves. And Texas Tech outbid the Sooners by a lot. There is something that is that we informally in the industry refer to as the no more visits price. Texas Tech paid the no more visits price to a ton of kids in this last portal cycle.
And you know what? They saw that Ohio State spent $20-some-odd million to build a national champion team. Why would you not copy that?
Smoke them if you got them. And Texas Tech, they got money now. And I forget who it was. I can't remember if it was Cody Campbell or whether it was the general manager, James Blanchard, that was quoted as saying this in the story. But they basically were like, look, Texas Tech has never played for a Big 12 championship, let alone won a Big 12 championship. When we do, and it'll happen, it's going to be a great day for this fan base. And we expect to be in the college football playoff hunt this next year. Which, I mean, let's be honest, Grayson, we just saw Ole Miss really sell out financially to try and make a run for a national title and fell short. So just because you spend that much money doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pay off. The key difference, though, there is that Ole Miss competes in the SEC. Texas Tech competes in the Big 12.
That is a hell of a lot weaker than we otherwise thought it was going to be.
Correct. Gunny says, I'm all about that smoke 'em if you got 'em mentality. Oh, we know that, Gunny. We know that. You ain't got to remind us. Kingston Girl asks, how much did OU spend on NIL? They did not spend $10 million. I will tell you that much. They spent a lot for John Mateer. I mean, the biggest slice of the pie by a wide margin for Oklahoma in this last portal cycle went to John Mateer. Understandably so. A 918 listener asks, since we only took 18 recruits this year, how many will we take next year? Thanks. Yeah, it's early. I would be lying if I told you I have a terribly clear handle on how large the class is going to be, because I think that's going to be subject to change depending on how much attrition you have in the post-spring portal window as well. But I would expect this class to return to the 22 to 26 range, I would think. It's not going to be enormous. Like 2024 was an enormous class for Oklahoma. They took 28. They're not taking 28 again. I would expect 22 to 26. That's a pretty standard size class. It's a class that if you have the talent density there, should be good for top 10 and might verge on top 5 nationally.
And also keep this in mind. They took a smaller class out of high school because they needed guys that could contribute today.
Yes.
Because of the situation that the coaching staff is in, that given the fact that their heads are going to be on a platter if last season repeats itself. So if you dig out of that situation, now you've got more of a buffer to take kids out of high school as developmental projects versus you got to win yesterday, which is the situation they're in right now.
Well, and I think the lesson that Oklahoma learned the hard way the last couple of months, I think it's a lesson they were willing to learn, certainly, but if you have to rely on the transfer portal to fill gaps on your roster, you're going to spend a lot more money than you would otherwise spend. For instance, again, it's great that you have John Mateer now. Nobody in the Oklahoma contingent, nobody in those offices at the Switzer Center was counting on having to pay well north of $2 million to get a starting quarterback after the 2024 season. The way it was supposed to go was Jackson Arnold was supposed to be coming off year 1 as the starter, heading into year 2. Michael Hawkins was there as your insurance policy in case anything happened, and that was how it was. That's how it was supposed to go. One thing leads to another. Jackson Arnold washes out, and all of a sudden, not only did you go 6-7, But now you need a starting quarterback.
And desperation always drives up the price.
Yes, it does. But what the John Mateer saga illustrates is that if you have that big of a need at that significant of a position, it's going to cost you a ton to get a satisfactory player, to get a satisfactory solution. And you don't want to be doing that every year. Grayson, like, are you willing to pay that money for the most important position on the field if you have to? Absolutely you are. But if that large of a slice of the pie, budgetarily speaking, is committed to the quarterback position every single year, then that comes at the detriment of other positions as well.
And I will say this. If this whole $20 million thing, now, let's do some math here. That $20 million is not just to football, right? With that house settlement thing.
No, it's $20 million total, as I understand.
Okay, so let's just say you're playing around with, because we've got to think of some numbers here. Here's why I'm bringing this up. Nobody in the Super Bowl era has won a Super Bowl taking up more than, I think it's 16%, with their quarterback taking up more than 16% of the cap. You're now having to play that game in college football.
A very salient point to wrap us up here on Locked In on, what is today, Wednesday? Is today Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay, I lost track. It gets cold out, my brain stops functioning. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Same time, same place. Teddy and Tyler got the rush coming up next. Keep it here.